Shovelware is a special toy from the electronic toy box. In the West, we have Absolute Demons under the names of Phoenix Games, Blast Entertainment, and Data Design Interactive, who were cranking out dozens of titles that have the value of a simp Twitch viewer. Each of them are depraved, valueless, goop-filled interactions purchased by people who didn't know any better, or ones buying the little animal telephone or power here, unironically. The superior powered Thunderbolt Overlord Top King. It truly is pathetic the lengths these people would go to copy-paste their games. I've played a large chunk of their library at this point, where one day I know I will fully climb the mountain and play them all, but I've always wondered how Japan is with this stuff. So it's time to fully see what is found in the Japanese PS2 hood after all this time. Their version of shovelware, or low-budget games, are published by a company called D3 Publisher and known to mortals as the Simple series, with by far the most popular one being Global Defense Force. Society seems to find this as a legend of the industry, but I'm not going to judge the whole anthology by this one game. This very well could be the Simple series' version of 8 Mile, so I just thought the best way to indulge myself into this realm would be to ignore that and give something like The Cat Fight a whirl, a fighting game using the ladies that makes me feel like an animal when I turn it on. We have 9 characters to choose from. I decided to go with this one. I'll call her the Red Stallion. My first opponent was trying her hardest to have a fluid animation during the pre-game hype up. We then spawn into a beach wrestling ring surrounded by various clothed multicolored gingerbread cookies, watching the possible human women in their bikinis rumbling. It's a show most, if not all, people would want to watch. The only problem is, playing it. I guess it may not be too shocking for this tier of game, with the fact you're incredibly limited with the moves you can pull off, while also being so plugged up with God only knows what, making it so you can hardly dance around the sand. These characters all feel as if they are handcrafted from the finest wood found in the pants of this game's target audience. Simply attempting to become the excellence of execution here is not a possibility. Although, it doesn't matter if you could or couldn't anyways. From what I played, there doesn't appear to be dedicated combos for any character. There isn't even a move list for that matter, meaning it's a weirdly stripped down fighter going on like Mortal Kombat 2 rules from the 1990s in a game that released in 2004. So while I was experiencing this flavorless cookie, I went back to the classic roots of using a tried and true method, using my singular move that happened to be the Forearm of Doom. This one attack was able to destroy the entire ladder with all the characters who share it. It's a shame I had to play this way, but the fighting feel is disgusting to the point I didn't have a choice. My tactic was either this, or grabbing an assault rifle that was randomly hurled into the battlefield alongside other random weaponry that are blatantly overpowered. Whenever you get your softened mitts onto one, you're able to stun lock the poor soul standing opposite of you, Fred Flintstoning them into the floor, always winning, abusing your creative control to the maximum, dipping your hands into everyone else's merch royalties, inevitably reaching Mo Mark II to cave her head in with a chair and deliver more buy one get one free forearms, allowing you to get costume. My immediate thought after playing Catfight was to go check and see how it compares to a Phoenix Games title, World Wrestling Championship. And as blue-chewed as Catfight was, it's seriously nowhere near the levels of atrocity as this is with movement. Plus, Catfight has more than 4 moves. To flush myself down the drain even further, I wanted to test WWC's mettle against the Simple series' take on wrestling, simply known as the Pro Wrestling full stop. And it's really pleasuring to see how the Goblins did deliver a true video game that a person can semi-enjoy. It's part of the 1500 series that released on PS1 that shockingly has better quality than both of the previous PS2 titles. You actually feel like you're playing something here. There's a reasonable roster size, the characters have more than a handful of moves, they work when you press the buttons, and you don't feel like you have ankylosis where it's an alpinist adjacent task to take a baby step. I was initially worried about this when I saw the Stone Cold Steve Austin looking ass on the main menu, but those worries were alleviated quickly to where it may have been worth dumping a few clams on this. So cowboy hats off off to the pro wrestler. You gotta love these names, by the way, taking it back to the 1980s with the kindergartner tiered titles. The cat fight, the pro wrestler, the helicopter, that sucks you right back down into reality, reheating the expectation nacho plate, little moldy ass cheese chip. All I'm trying to do is fly my helicopter in a bedroom, and it's unreal how difficult this is to do. I'm constantly breaking my shit off the ceiling while trying to land on these helipads. The acceleration is very jarring to say the least. When you land and tap the analog stick, you'll rocket straight into the air. Having control issues as dirty as this is not the greatest thing in the world for a game so simple. From what I'm picking up, all you're really doing is soaring in the air, going around various areas, searching for stars to do a mission. Having you shoot balls of clay at paper cockroaches or water at cats. You then get points from these said missions, and you need to find a store to spend them at. It took me about 10 minutes to find one though, and I didn't even buy anything, so I wasn't entirely happy to discover it. The helicopter moves so slow, you'll really need to have the patience to sit there, holding your button, flying around the linear paths. I'm not fully sure what the goal of this was. Nothing I did was remotely close to scratching the surface of enjoyable. Maybe it was supposed to be used as a technical specimen of sorts, which would have been radical if it was 1995, but in 2003, I think we had better options to push the PS2 console into overdrive. Nobody is gonna use this game right here to make their shit start steaming. However, if you are interested in taking the aerial fetish to the next level, you can look no further than Space War Attack. Oh boy, a story I can't read. The first level is called Opening Ceremony, releasing me into the skies in my little plane, blowing away enemy ships in what could be the easiest plane game in the history of flying. We're existing inside of a small grade school diorama project, waiting for our lock-on button to do its almighty job, and we press circle while having infinite ammo. I'm not sure if dying is a thing in this game. If it is, I never got to experience it because it's practically impossible to meet the Grim Reaper. They literally could have done the most simple change of giving you a limited amount of ammo to fix this issue. The fact you can blare a flurry of missiles without a thought in the world does make for a snooze fest of an experience. The only thing that will keep you awake are these messages talking shit to you down at the bottom of your screen. Needless to say, this game is pretty boring with nothing going on. There are titles on PS1 that would curb stomp it into a million pieces, but in the scope of a low effort piece of sewer muck, it could be passable if you are one who attempts to put toy planes in places they shouldn't go. If you're trying to compare it to a Phoenix Games title, the closest similarity to Space War Attack I could find was Combat Ace, and again, I'm not trying to say Space War Attack is kick-ass. I felt like I got shot in the neck with a tranquilizer dart while I was playing it, but next to Combat Ace, where missiles are looking like cheese balls, it's not the unflushed shit you initially would believe it is. I guess proving there are levels to the debacle at hand. So at this point, let's see the simple series' spin on the most vanilla sludge these low-budget companies love to use, a party game. Phoenix's version of it was to plaster 100 games into one entertainment package that reused the same backgrounds while seasoning it with an infant's Fisher-Price toy box. Circles and squares for the whole family. Then you got legendary relics like 55 in 1 on the 3DS, the mobile turkey stuffed with the finest raw materials imaginable to create a wet dream of a game on the go. And for Simple Series, we have the party game. To not a single Gremlin surprise though, this really is no different than what you'd experience with any other party title. You honestly could argue these enthralling mini-games are less enjoyable than what you'd experience on Dynamite 100. At least in that, you're moving around while playing as a Pong character. Here, practically every mini-game can be played with one hand while you're staring at the screen, slobbering on a banquet meal. Press circle when you see the light, walk forward in the darkness, play quiz, watch animation happen. I'm not gonna pretend I had any enjoyment flowing through my veins while playing this, nor could I see anyone else having that happen to them. However, if you somehow somehow have the ability to be entertained by a jingling key ring, you still wouldn't be able to fully enjoy it on your own. For reasons unknown, there are no AI players, so you need to phone the local fiends to come over to your cave to start playing the great gaming escapade alongside you. I tried my best to make that move, but people don't respond well to, would you be interested in coming over to wine and dine with electronic sewage? It's a tough task determining whether Phoenix would win the party battle or not. Visuals aside, the fact you're only able to play with yourself is making me lean more in the stank breath Firebird direction. So for fun, the Western world can get a point. But the question is, can they get another point when compared to a simple series 2D shooter? What is that said shooter called? The shooting game, obviously. That would give the largest of large fake natty a wedgie over their head, turning those whitey tighties into a chin strap. As kinda blurry as these graphics are, Simple Series has a pretty damn good 2D shooter in the back pocket. It's a sequel to a game called Shinryu from the arcades. I've never heard of it, but this one has a few different characters that have unique damage stats, speed, plus unique alternate weapon spread formations, all used to avoid millions of fuzzballs constantly slammed down your throat while blasting away at opposing ships. What you're witnessing can seriously become a hairy situation, sending you to your doom repeatedly. Thankfully, you do have infinite lives, allowing you to slam yourself into the evil forever and ever, blaring special attacks at bosses. At the same time though, I do kinda wish you could turn the unlimited continues off. It makes the game way too easy. I finished the whole thing in about 20 minutes without much of an issue. And yeah, I sort of get why this choice was made. They probably didn't want to go completely off of arcade rules, since most of them were designed to be as disgusting as possible. Really, I'd rather be breaking my back in coal mines all day, maskless, huffing toxic chemicals into my lungs, than playing games from the arcade era, cause at least then I'd be making money instead of having it stolen from me. But this short PP gameplay is the reason I'm assuming the previously mentioned original arcade version was included in here as well, with the same infinite lives hogwash, giving you a 2-in-1 combo for the shooting game that would have undoubtedly been a reasonable purchase for a small amount of gold pieces. It really is pathetic how Simple Series gamers were getting 2-in-1 slammers, while Phoenix fans were getting search and destroy, shooting their little untextured rainbow-styled curlicues, or Shadows of Ganymede using a stretched picture of a world map cause these blockheads were too lazy to draw up even the most bland background for their water bottle squirt in a hurricane video game. This predicament stirred my pot quite a bit, forcing me to add on to my never-ending questions, like wondering how a Simple Series racing title would be. I found one called Edit Racing, a very strange name. There's a few selectable drivers here that have hobbies. Maurice has the hobby of glutton, Martin Walker has the hobby of drive, and considering how this is a driving game, he's probably the best one to go with. I bought my whip with my make-pretend money, I practiced on the PS1 looking track, then I entered a race for real, going against poor speedsters who seriously believed they could hold a candle to the green automobile, known as the Type Bacon, Tomato, and Lettuce. While I was driving, I slowly started noticing how bizarre the physics are in Edit Racing. It's coming off like you're sitting inside of a rickety-ass, rotting bumper cart that's gonna snap off the ceiling. It is playable, obviously, you just can't expect nitty-gritty realism with this one, nor could you expect a minimap. They decided to include this pencil line snot instead of a traditional track map. I don't like it. I think it would be nice to know the positions of each of my victims at all times, but there's nothing I can do about it. This fact was, of course, not going to stop me from ascending the racing pyramid, though, racking up my trophies, seeing bombs going off, blowing buildings to smithereens, giving me a real-world Toilet Kids introduction when I saw it. Watching parts of the tracks randomly explode, occasionally opening up a shortcut is a neat idea to include, but where the fuck was this for everyone else in the trenches? Where was our terrorism? We had society spending a few bills on extreme speed, making them watch corn muffin batter ooze out of every orifice of the television set, while these guys guys were getting explosions, as with tracks looking different from one another, utilizing the thing most humans have called the brain, steaming it up a bit to use colors or various parts of the world as inspiration and making a track about it. On top of this, in edit racing, you are able to in fact edit with the track builder system. It's not the most extravagant mechanic ever invented. I was struggling to make a track that actually finished, but having this feature in what would be seen by most as shovelware, cheapo, store brand gunk that isn't worth a single person's time playing at face value fully proves the "it's a shovelware low budget game, what do you expect" is a bunch of vomited up ABC SpaghettiOs bullshit. Evidently, it is possible to use the monopoly money given to create a game that at the very least has value and isn't a worthless waste of time, similar to landscaping a yard with your hands, to then start sorting each blade of grass you tear out, smallest to largest. Now, did this discovery that Phoenix or Blast Entertainment has no real chance to win this fight stunt my expedition to keep going down the Simple Series rabbit hole? Fuck no, it didn't. The Taxi, a game attempting to clone Crazy Taxi. The franchise the slums of gaming truly enjoys recreating, most likely because it's easy. Data Design Interactive and Phoenix have both made their own versions of it. Even Game Mill put their hands in the cookie jar. Everyone has been down this road, it seems. When it comes to the Simple Series iteration, it's slightly better. Obviously, that's not saying much. The Game Mill version barely fucking works for one, but the Taxi here is pretty rotten with its 90-150 vision render distance, and with the most perplexing thing of all being how the people you need to scoop up off the sidewalk are just hardly there. For a game centered around the clock, trying to get as many drop-offs as you can, nobody here really needs the yellow steed. You can go over a minute without seeing one person to pick up. I don't understand the reason why anybody would spend a single second with this. You might as well have gotten the name brand meal at this point. The Taxi came out in 2004, 4 years after The Big Boss, so the price for it would have decreased by that time frame. You could have bought it used. What's the sense of making a cheap-ass dirt speck of a clone years after it released? I think we should just be sticking to the original games if we're gonna design a skunk sack tiered title in the eyes of many. You should have followed in the footsteps of Dogs of the Battlefield, a game that begins with our commanding officer hovering through the halls, attempting to intimidate everyone, where we then select our gear we want to bring into battle. I'm going to pretend I didn't sit there for 10 minutes, not understanding I was unequipping all my stuff, and kept starting the missions not knowing why I didn't have a weapon due to my inability to read Japanese. Cause the way I see the situation is that the universe was trying its best to prevent me from stumbling into one of these levels for real. What we have here is a third-person shooter that has some of the worst controls I've ever had the displeasure of dealing with. Your character must have come across a witch in the midst of his adventures in the jungle who gave him the ability to walk for the first time or some shit, and we're witnessing his initial time activating the legs. How a person of this caliber can be brought into the platoon is beyond anyone's comprehension. I'm guessing that's why they send him on missions alone. They're sitting there hollering good luck trying to move or aim, buddy, from the back lines while they watch him get mowed down as he's struggling to exist. It's pathetic how difficult the most simple movements and especially aiming is. On occasion, when you aim down, you won't even be pointed where your character is looking. Then you need to deal with the guns having the bullet range of spitting distance, on top of your aim being slow enough to the point you're hardly able to kill a couple enemies before they blow you away. And these guys are frying you in 2 bullets, sometimes 1. So the fact you're stuck dealing with the instant Grim Reaper visitation having no ability to change the sensitivity makes the combat light years away from the flaming ball of fun in this solar system. But the most depressing part of this game would have to be this mission, where I was tasked to blow up 2 misshapen Eiffel Towers and a tent using grenades. You're forced to be careful throughout the level to not use your pocket rockets, while also hoping enough spawn to destroy the 3 shits. In my case, only 2 grenades spawned during the level, even after wiping out the town, making me have to restart the level because I had no way to progress. We really weren't able to ensure this didn't happen on a level that was copy-pasted. With that in mind, there's no excuse here. There's no way you were dropping dead from sleep deprivation while reusing assets. It's wonderful how a game that's making you do the most brain-dead objectives that are at the level of counting to 3 is having you swan dive into a beehive to tear the queen bee's wing off with your teeth and make it out alive just to go from 1 to 2 thanks to how sickening the gameplay feel is, or having to deal with a soft lock. It's making these militaristic warlords look like chumps. But if the military can't cut the mustard, maybe the cops can in Miniskirt Police. And with a title like that, nobody is gonna know what to think off the ripcord. My thought was an adult video, the video game, a guess that was partially correct. It's a beat 'em up game that could absolutely contend with the Street Warriors of society. Our character has her one button, dinky combo string of attacks that is used on enemies that all look identical. If you're lucky though, you'll see a guy with a dark suit, or you'll stumble into the antagonist who's wearing a cream suit. None of this is, of course, the selling point. That belongs to how, when you take damage, your clothes start to come off. As your health bar is chipped away, more and more skin will be revealed, to where you'll eventually be stripped down to your dollar store bra and undies. Was this these guys' way of making the game titillating? I'd love to know. It's just a disappointment boy DGen at the PC behind Miniskirt Police had this clothes tearing off moment be the largest inconvenience of the entire game. Each time it happens, the whole game stops for a few seconds as you watch the dress deteriorate. And if you're in the first person view when it transpires, you'll probably believe the game crashed for a short time. Was the PS2 not capable of having this be seamless, or was it intended to be an event of some kind? If that was the idea, it kind of worked, I guess. Nothing else in Miniskirt Police is remotely gripping, so something needs to happen, right? When you disregard the erotic teases, you're only left with becoming bewildered at how dysfunctional the combat is. When you don't have a weapon, either being a grenade or pistol, that funnily enough controls the exact same as dogs of the battlefield, just slightly better since the sensitivity isn't at the speed of watching the clock tick around a whole ass hour, the hand-to-hand combat is an absolute atrocity to continuously partake in, to where it might be impossible to dish out combos and not receive damage in return. It would have been nice if we could block to mitigate this, but apparently that was too much to ask for. All things considered, I still, for reasons I don't understand, did play Miniskirt Police for a lot longer than I should have. Maybe this pixelated pink dress was sucking me in that much, because I know for certain I wasn't enjoying myself at all, but I guess this is sort of the fun of the simple series. For the real gamblers in society, unironic enjoyment can be extracted while sifting through this library. There are quite literally hundreds of these spread across the PS1, PS2, PS3, Wii, and Wii U that were all developed by various companies. And from what I got to indulge myself with, you have a real chance to find titles that, for what they were priced at, are not awful times, like Edit Racing. Then on the other hand, you might find a cat fight, Dogs of the Battlefield, just sopping wet chewed gum with mold on it picked off a car's tire. Or you could find this, where you're playing as women in bikinis playing smack ass. I don't know what is going on here. You never know what you're gonna get with these things. A sentiment that cannot be said about the four horsemen of gaming. When it pertains to Phoenix, for example, you are lucky if you find one that is passable. I've probably played over 40, 50 of their games at this point, and I've only found one that is not worthless. With Data Design or Blast, I haven't even found a single one yet. With that said, it's more than apparent to see Simple Series wins the war of the slums. Some of these development studios did actually try to make a real game with the small amount of shekels they were given, and I hope Phoenix, Blast, Game Mill, and Data Design all burn in hell for not putting a single lick of effort into 99% of what they release to the public for money. Big ups to all of our channel members who generously support the channel even further. If you would like to join them and get early access to content, be sure to hit the join button right next to the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, take very good care of yourselves, and I hope to see you all again in the next video.